Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Monday, September 20th, 2021. We have quite a bit to talk about. And if you'd like further details on the weather in your location, if you have access to go online, you can go to weather.gov/Alaska. And if you wish to pass along any interesting reports or photos, you can reach me at peter.chan@noaa.gov. Well, here are the headlines. We continue to watch a fall storm. It's going to be lifting up into the north central Gulf, combining with the cold front that's been pushing across the interior and how it's gotten south of Fairbanks. And it's bringing early season snows to portions of the southeast interior, including along and north of the central and eastern Alaska range, as well as south into the Copper River Basin. We're going to see three low pressure systems impact the state of noteworthiness here. One right now, and then another one around midweek as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, lingering into Friday, and yet another one later in the weekend, especially Sunday into early next week. And this is going to translate to some rather wet weather, especially north central Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, bringing additional rainfall. Each system easily another inch or two of rain, locally higher amounts in some of the coastal mountains, along with some gusty winds. Also, winter storm watch has been issued by the Fairbanks office for the Yukon Delta. Later Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday night, there's going to be a little compact area low pressure moving off the Bering Sea that could produce a quick shot of accumulating snow. I'll show you that in a moment. And yes, the autumn equinox for the Northern Hemisphere arrives on Wednesday, September 22nd, even though we've had winter weather arrive early. Not unheard of, though, in Alaska. Here's an image from the FAA webcam. Anaktuvik Pass this morning, temperature got down to 3 above, and you can see some newer snowfall that fell there with the most recent system, but at least a few breaks there in the cloud cover. And here is the watch warning advisory map. We continue to have winter storm warnings in effect east and southeast of Fairbanks, including Eagle down through Northway, 40-mile Gold Country, and along the central eastern Alaska range, and then also back toward Denali Park, and also down across the Copper River Basin, where as much as 5 to 8 inches of snow could fall. A few locally higher amounts will be possible in some of the higher elevations. The colder air now is just beginning to get down into the Copper River Basin, so if you're in that location around Glen Ellen, you'll see precipitation mixed with and change to snow as we go through this evening and tonight, with some accumulation likely. Also, Thompson Pass could experience around there of accumulating snows and blowing snow. Some stronger winds are going to develop on the north side of the low as we go into the day on Tuesday. That could affect areas around Seward and Whittier with some wind gusts out of the north upwards around 50, 55 miles an hour. Also, notice the orange area to the west there in the lower Yukon Valley, including Hooper Bay on up toward Eamonnok and St. Mary's. There's a potential for some accumulating snow there later tomorrow into Tuesday night as low pressure comes in off of the Bering. So here is the precipitation forecast as we go through Tuesday. You can see the areas of rain continuing across the north central Gulf Coast into the southeast Panhandle, particularly the inner coastal mountains there. And also back to the west, notice that streak from around St. Lawrence Island moving southeastward toward the lower Yukon Valley. That is that little area low pressure that's going to bring the snow. What I'm showing you here is liquid equivalent precipitation. And then notice a bit of a lull. We'll see things let up there in the Panhandle on Wednesday, as well as across the southeast interior. But notice the rain beginning to expand there from around Kodiak Island south and southwestward. That's the leading edge of the next Gulf low that'll impact the Gulf, especially as we go through Thursday and Friday. So here on the satellite imagery, you can see the moisture being flung northeastward up across the Panhandle, especially the southern half, with additional moisture back to the west there, up across south central areas into the southeast interior. Cold front has made progress. In fact, Fairbanks picked up about almost a half an inch of snow With the passage of that front, obviously the snow will be heavier as you get a little further south and southeast there of Fairbanks, where the winter storm warnings and advisories are in effect. Back up there along the Arctic and northwest coast, we have low pressure up there in the Arctic Ocean with winds out of the northwest pumping down the colder air and occasional snow showers, even some isolated snow squalls. And then as we go back out to the west, there is there'll be some clearing trying to develop across the interior of the southwest. On the backside of the low, that's where the stronger north winds will set up as we go through the day on Tuesday. And then as we look further off to the south and west, you can see some hints way down there in the lower left of your screen of the next low pressure system that is going to become the main player. That's going to initially bypass just south of the central Aleutians here tomorrow into early Wednesday before it emerges into the lower southwest Gulf later Wednesday and on Thursday. So here's that low right now, located south of Cordova out over the Gulf, and that'll continue to lift slowly northward with an included front working its way into the Panhandle, with the cold front beginning to kind of wash out there in the southeast interior, but providing the colder air that's going to get the snows going here, especially overnight into early Wednesday morning. And then also reinforcing shots of cold air coming in along the northwest, North Slope, Brooks Range area with additional periods of snow and snow showers. And then on Tuesday, there's the low located south of the central Aleutians that's going to be tracking to the east-northeast as the low continues to sit and spin over the north-central Gulf. Slowly, the showers will begin to wind down there across the Panhandle for Wednesday. They'll become lighter, more scattered. But then you can see the next area of low pressure there south of Kodiak Island is going to be lifting northeastward and become the main weather player as we go into especially Thursday and Friday. So low temperatures generally in the 40s across the Panhandle, 30s, even some 20s as you get along and north of the Glen Ellen Highway. And then high temperatures Tuesday afternoon still in the 50s across the Panhandle, but generally in the 40s from Talkeetna southward, though Glen Ellen will only be a bit above freezing where the snow is falling. And if skies, any type of clearing could give way to some colder temperatures below freezing, generally north of Anchorage as we go into Wednesday morning with high temperatures still around or a bit above 50 in the Panhandle, but elsewhere highs generally in the 40s across south central with some areas of the interior staying in the 30s. And much colder temperatures there in the north. Brooks Range, north of the Yukon River, teens, even some single digits. Otherwise, lows generally in the 20s. Yukon Valley around or a bit below freezing there along the coastal areas of the north, as well as Seward Peninsula. And on Tuesday, high temperatures will generally be confined to the 30s most areas. And lows again Wednesday morning could be down into the teens, maybe isolated single digits. And south slopes there of the Brooks Range. Otherwise, generally 20s and lower 30s across the region, with high temperatures Wednesday, generally in the 30s to 40, and then across the southwest on Tuesday morning, we are looking for lows below freezing across the interior, highs only in the 40s during the day, even if there's some sun, and around 50 along the length of the Alaska Peninsula into the Panhandle. And then for Wednesday afternoon, temperatures still generally in the lower 40s for highs across the southwest interior, around 50 extending out the Panhandle. No change coming up here for the end of September, the 26th through the 30th. Still looking like there could be a below normal temperatures centered on the state, especially over the southwest and south central areas, with below normal precipitation from the southwest up into the central interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, moving along to aviation weather, if you are attempting to flight here Tuesday into Wednesday, we do have adverse conditions across the southeast portion of the state, especially the interior, where winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories are in effect for areas that include the 40-mile Gold Country south through the eastern central Alaska range and Copper River basins, as well as we get into the Panhandle, look for IFR conditions as well as along the Brooks Range and northwest Arctic coast. On Tuesday afternoon, still areas of IFR there across the southeast along the Alcan border, and especially the inner coastal mountains there of the Panhandle. And as we go into Wednesday morning, still IFR conditions along the Alcan border there across the southeast, along and just south of the Alaska range into, again, the inner coastal mountains of the Panhandle there with Canada, and then back up through the Brooks Range and northwest Arctic coast with pockets in the Seward Peninsula and lower Yukon Valley. And conditions should improve a bit by Wednesday, becoming VFR across much of south central and central parts of the state, with still areas of mainly MVFR, though isolated areas of IFR continuing in the Panhandle, as well as up along the northwest Arctic coast. So past conditions Tuesday, Anaktuvuk will start IFR becoming MVFR, and Atigun also IFR becoming MVFR. Conditions will be better further south as you fly south of Atigun and Anaktuvuk. You'll see VFR conditions as you head toward the Yukon River. Lake Clark, further south and west, will be MVFR becoming VFR, and Merrill should generally hold on to MVFR conditions on Tuesday. As we round the Alaska Range, though, we are looking for Rainy Pass to be IFR, trying to become MVFR, as will Windy. And Isabel Pass is starting out both IFR to MVFR. Further east, though, Mentasta should remain IFR, as again, in that region, we expect winter weather conditions with falling snow and lower ceilings. And then for Tanita, look for IFR conditions becoming MVFR. And further south a bit, Portage should see MVFR conditions become VFR, especially the south of Portage. And Chilkoot and White will remain IFR there in the northern Panhandle on Tuesday. And a check of freezing levels. Overall, freezing levels will be down near the surface Tuesday morning, especially across much of the interior, coming up to about 2,000-foot freezing levels there in the Alaska Peninsula, east side of the Kenai. And then look for freezing levels as high as 6 to near 8,000 feet as we go through the southern end of the Panhandle, as well as we get out into the eastern and central Aleutians. Greatest threat for icing will exist over portions of the southeast along the Alcan border into the Panhandle, as well as back out toward St. Lawrence Island, where we can see some icing between 2,000 and 8,000 feet. Across areas along the Alcan border and areas along, and especially south there of the Alaska Range, 2,000 to 12,000 feet. Along the north central Gulf Coast, between 4,000 and 14,000 feet, and then the far southern end of the Panhandle into British Columbia between 7,000 and 17,000 feet. Here is the upper level winds, 30,000 feet. Strongest core of winds coming onshore into British Columbia there, 110 knots from the southwest. We have another area out over the western Gulf, 80 to 90 knots from the northwest, and then back out across the northern Bering, 65 to 85 knot northwest winds. Dropping down to 9,000 feet, low pressure circulation right along the north central Gulf there in the vicinity of Cordova, with winds upwards of 55 knots from the northwest out over the central Gulf, and the backside of the low, rather strong north winds at mid-levels there, 40 to 45 knots, and coming down to 3,000 feet, closer to a surface reflection of the low pressure, again centered near Cordova along the north Gulf coast. We are looking at winds out over the central Gulf from the west-northwest, 40 knots, and then on the backside of it, as high as 40 to 45 knots over parts of the Kenai, Kodiak Island, creating turbulence. And then also weak low circulation back on toward St. Lawrence Island and the mainland. And best chance for any sort of low-level turbulence on Tuesday will be starting there in the Panhandle, surface to 6,000 feet, and there will be potential for some low-level wind shear as weakening occluded front lifts up into the region, enhancing the shear. And then back out across Prince William Sound, Alaska Range, down through the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, surface to 6,000 feet, and also out there in the eastern Aleutians, surface to 4,000 foot turbulence will remain possible there.
Ahoy, Extra Cadets! and welcome to the Okeanos Explorer. I'm Debbie, and I'm an ocean explorer. I work for NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Together with many other people, I work on this ship and we explore the deep sea. How do we do that? Let's go find out.
Octonauts, let's do this. Yow!
The pressure in the ocean is so great humans can't go there, so we send a special robot. Octocadets, meet Deep Discoverer, our special robot for ocean exploration. And this is Chris. He works with Deep Discoverer. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Debbie.
Can you tell us about what Deep Discoverer does?
Sure. So this is Deep Discover, and today we're going to take Deep Discover up to 4 miles down to the ocean floor so you can see what Deep Discoverer sees.
And how do we do that?
We do that by using these powerful cameras and powerful lights.
That's neat. And what is that?
And this is our manipulator arm, and we use this arm to take biological and geological samples that we store up front in these boxes, and so that we can bring them to the surface so scientists can analyze them.
Wow, isn't that cool, Octocadets? Wow! Now that we know more about the special robot that explores the seafloor, let's find out more about the ship. Octocadets, let's do this. Now let's find out what we do with D2's video. Come along. This is the control room. A lot of things about D2 happen in here. Behind me you see the pilots. They steer D2 on the seafloor. And over here we have scientists. Hi, Steve and Stacy.
Hi, this is Steve and I'm Stacy and we are marine biologists.
Can you tell us about the work you do here?
We actually look at the videos collected by the robots and we try to identify organisms along with other scientists on the shore.
What are you looking at right now?
We're actually looking at a sea star.
That's so awesome, thank you. Now let's look at how we make maps of the seafloor.
Excellent, Quasi. A good map helps you to get to places you've never been.
We also have a scientist on board who makes maps of the seafloor. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Debbie.
Can you tell us about your work?
Sure. My job on the ship is to make maps of the ocean floor. We do this by sending sound from the bottom of the ship. It echoes off the seafloor and comes back to the ship. And then from that, we can make maps like this. So this is what it would look like if you were able to drain the water out of the ocean and actually see what the landscape looked like down there. We use these maps to give the vehicles a place to dive, and they explore further, just like Octonauts do.
Status report, Dashi.
We're right on course, Captain.
So earlier we learned that D2 picks things up from the seafloor with his manipulator arm. Let's find out what we do with those samples. This is the wet lab, and Megan spends a lot of time here. Megan, can you tell us about your work?
I am the sample data manager, so when the ROV comes up, we go out and we collect the samples from the ROV and we bring them in here. And we try to record as much information about them as possible, everything from the details about what they look like to the environment conditions where they were found. How cold was it, for example? Then we come in and we take imagery using this microscope, and we take pictures using this camera as well. And then after we get all the pictures taken and we're ready, we prepare them for shipping to other scientists and museums so more science can be done, such as the squat lobster, this cup coral as well.
And what is that?
This is a piece of coral, or several pieces of coral, that we think might actually be a new species. So we are going to send it out for a comparison to existing species to see if we discovered something new.
Wow, you have a really cool job.
Thank you.
Fascinating. I've read about this, but I've never actually seen it.
An important part of how we explore the ocean is keeping in touch with scientists and Octocadets on shore. Let's go see how we do that. Rosemary, could you tell the Octocadets a little about what that dish does?
Sure. My name is Lieutenant Rosemary Abbott. I'm the operations officer aboard the Okeanos Explorer, and that is our VSAT. It stands for Very Small Aperture Terminal, and inside that satellite dome is a very powerful dish antenna that allows us to communicate with shore and share video in real time. The technology is called telepresence.
Wow, that is so interesting. Thank you, Rosemary. Now I'm getting really hungry. Let's go to the kitchen and talk about food. This is the ship's kitchen, also known as the galley. And this is Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Debbie.
Michael is the chief steward on this ship, and he keeps 49 people fed for 3 weeks at a time. Michael, how do you do that?
With a lot of care and with the help of 3 crew members. I have myself, the chief steward, a chief cook, and a second cook. And we just do it with a lot of love and care and make sure that everybody's happy and well fed. We use up to 150 dozen eggs per trip, up to 100 gallons of milk, a lot of veggies and fruits, a lot of snacks. Everybody's very pleased with what we usually put out. We also make sure that we do it in a loving way, in a sanitary way, in a safe way that keeps everybody from getting any tummy aches.
I'm about to enter the ship's bridge. It's like the Octopod's headquarters.
Octonauts to the HQ.
Ahoy, Captain.
Ahoy, Debbie.
Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Octocadets, meet Eric Johnson, the commander of the ship. Eric, can you tell us about what you do up here?
Absolutely. Hello, Octocadets. My name's Eric Johnson. I'm an Corps officer, and I'm the captain of the Okeanos Explorer. Welcome to my office. This is where we drive the ship. This is where we control the operations. We run the propellers that are underneath us in the back to the wheel up here at the front, which is where we steer. It's a pretty cool job. It's very exciting, and it's pretty beautiful around here as well.
So, Octocadets, now you know a little bit about the ship and how we explore the deep sea. I hope you enjoyed our time together. I'll see you next time.
Debbie, safety first.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, welcome back, and in our marine weather, we start with the sea ice edge, and we're almost to the minimum retreat. We're almost to the ice minimum, and that will likely, if it already hasn't happened, at some point here within the next week or so. And we have plenty of open water there along the Arctic and Northwest coast into the lower Chukchi Sea, but obviously we've seen colder air move into the region, and it's not long before the ice will start to rebuild and begin to develop southward. But in the meantime, action is in the Gulf. We have a low pressure that will be lifting up into the north central Gulf on Tuesday. And ahead of it, winds will be southeast to south across the inner channels there of the southeast panhandle, 20-25 knots, waves 4 to 5 feet, though as high as 9 feet once you get south of Ketchikan. And along the outer coast there, winds out of the southwest-west, 20-25 knots, waves generally between about 10 and 13 feet. On Wednesday, we'll see winds come down a bit southeast to south, the inner water ways at 15 to 20 knots, waves 4 to 5 feet, and west-southwest winds onshore there along the Gulf from Craig to Yakutat with waves, though having built, because of the sustained duration of the winds, as high as 20 feet there south of Gustavus through Sitka and west of Craig. Across the south-central areas, look for winds to be generally northwesterly on Tuesday, anywhere from around 30 to as high as 35 to 40 knot gales off the Kenai and there between Homer and the mouth of Cook Inlet and Kodiak, with waves there as high as 10 to as much as 18 feet northeast and east of Kodiak. Otherwise, Prince William Sound, 6-footers, as well as up in the north end, north of Kenai toward Anchorage. On Wednesday, winds will turn more toward the northeast, 40-knot gales across the open waters of the Gulf with waves around 13, 14 feet, and generally north winds down the length of Cook Inlet and waves 5 to 8 feet. On Tuesday for Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula, winds will generally be northwesterly there around Kodiak Island, 30 to near 35-knot gales, waves 7 feet Shelikof Strait, but 10 to 13 feet there south of AKwx. And then off to the west, we'll see winds in the Bering side north to east at 20 knots, waves 5 to 6 feet. And then as the next low pressure system approaches and passes south of the eastern Aleutians, we're going to see winds picking up out of the northeast and east as high as 35 to 40 knot gales there on the Pacific and Gulf side. Waves building 8 to as high as 13 feet, 5 to 9 feet on the Bering side. And then across the eastern Aleutians on Tuesday, winds are turning easterly across much of the length with 30 to 35 knot to 40 knot gales on the Pacific side, especially south of Atka and Adak. Waves there building 13 to 14 feet, 8 to 12 feet on the Bering side. And then as low passes south of the eastern Aleutians on Wednesday, we'll see northeasterly gales 35 upwards to 40 knots there across the eastern half of the Aleutians. Waves as high as 17 feet on the North Pacific side, 10 to 15 feet on the Bering side, and winds turn a little more easterly there and lessen as you get west of Adak with waves of 9 to 11 feet. Across the west coast, winds a bit of a mixed bag on Tuesday, though they are going to tend to try and turn more northerly and picking up 20-25 knots, waves generally 5 to 6 feet there through the open waters. And then on Wednesday, definitely north winds, especially south of St. Lawrence around Nunavik Island to east of St. Paul and St. George, 25 to 30 knot easterly or northerly winds with waves of 6 to 10 feet. And then across the Arctic coast, winds will generally be out of the west 25 knots, but turning more north and northwest as you get down along the northwest coast into the lower Chukchi Sea at about 25 to 20 knots and waves 6 feet. And during the day on Wednesday, westerly winds along the Arctic coast, Utqiagvik through Kaktovik, and waves generally 4 to 5 feet there. And northwest to north winds through the lower Chukchi Sea and the straits, the Bering Strait, with waves of 4 to 6 feet. And here is the way the weather map is going to look on Tuesday. That low lifting up into the north central Gulf just east of Cordova. With circulating winds around it, it'll begin to fill and gradually weaken, though still producing those gale force winds. The next low of consequence will be south of the central Aleutians in the North Pacific. And as we go into Wednesday, look for that next area of low pressure to get better organized as it passes south of the Alaska Peninsula, south of Kodiak Island. It will gather some steam and lift up into the central Gulf as we head into Thursday, bringing widespread wind and rains to much of the Gulf Coast, including the Panhandle. That does it for tonight. That's all the time I have. Have a good one.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.